Reagan. Good. Isbot. Good. Miles. Good girl, Isbot. See how she knows to wait till he decides whether he wants it or not. Riggy. Oh, take my finger off. Izzy. Miles. She read him. See that? Izzy. Good. Miles. Break. Come on. Yeah, boy. Here you go. So, aggression, right? That's what we'll talk about today, because that's what fighting, growling, all this stuff. Growling is signs that I will be aggressive. I'm warning you that I'll be aggressive. It all boils down to aggression, okay? Here's the interesting thing about aggression. It's controlled by the hierarchy, right? So, or suppressed, I should say. So, he might want to strike at her, but he won't, because in this pack, he knows I'm up here, and he also knows I don't like it when you strike at the dogs. So therefore he won't. And that really is the only reason why he won't. And that's how it works. But here's something that's funny though. Even me, somebody who has a good reputation around here amongst dogs, around this group of dogs, if somebody came in who had an equal strength and intensity of a relationship with this dog, but was on the opposite side of the spectrum with me and didn't want to punish him and all that stuff, they could actually step in this room and he would then get power from them just enough to re-challenge me. And then I'd put him in his place, but if the person was on my side, everything would be smooth. But if the person wouldn't allow me to do what I had to do to put this animal in its place, the way that needs to happen, then he'll never ever respect me the same ever again, and he'll start fighting the dogs again. Right? It's all about how he views himself in this pack. Where does he stand? Who's going to hold him accountable? Are they for real, or are they just want to do it, but they're not because maybe not everybody in the house feels the same way? That's a very common thing too. That's why a lot of dog trainers say everybody needs to be consistent. Yeah. We know, because if person A is letting them get away with murder, and person B is frustrated with it and trying to clean it up, the dog's going to lean on person A and be like, I'm going to follow them because this is more fun. And you won't have the effect that you need, shy of nearly trying to kill the thing. Then maybe you'll listen, But it's much easier to just get everybody on board, have simple rules, hold the dog accountable, have them test the boundaries, get corrected and punished and put in their place after breaking known rules and known boundaries. That puts them in their place in the hierarchy. Certain conversations that you see we have. I have conversations with them over food and over resources, which includes space, like being on the couch, how to do social interactions where he exists in the hierarchy. In his own head will determine how he treats these dogs, how he treats other people, So where if he was not had been worked with, and I put him in that situation, he would have bit her, right? He wanted to bite her just there. Why didn't he? Because him and I have had our little battles, and he sees me as the leader, and he sees me above. So he knows that that's something I don't want him to do, so therefore he won't. But it's not because he likes me, it's because he respects me, because he knows that I will retaliate. And it won't feel good. So simply, he's just trying to avoid confrontation that he knows is a possibility because it happened in the past. So that is our relationship, just like every dog in here. I just have to make a sound. Whoa, it looks like magic, but not really. All that it is in the past, I said no, just like that, and she didn't listen, and she knows what happens after that. Certain conversations are missed, and you can't replace them with trying to just do commands. You can, but it's never as reliable, right? These guys know that anytime, here's rule number 1, right? If I say stop it, stop it. That's a simple thing that you can start with. If I say no, if I have to ask twice, there's going to be a physical consequence. And then, depending on how you receive that physical consequence, is going to determine what happens directly afterwards. So if I say no and correct you, and then you just take it and be quiet, then you're good. I'm going to say good, pat you on the head. If you try to snap at me, we're going to have a fight. Because I'm going to snap back. And then you're going to snap back, and I'm going to snap back. Right, this is just give you a visual. There's obviously training techniques, but at the end, the dog's going to be submitted. Okay? And we always use conversations that make sense to dogs. That's why our dogs aren't confused. They know what's going on. If I say, here's a piece of food, don't touch it, and then you come and try to touch it, and we get into a scuffle, they see that as justified. If I win, they say, okay, I understand why, because I messed with this food. Or I was trying to hump the female dog in the yard. That was why I got submitted. They do their little fight, they realize it doesn't work, they realize there's a bigger dog, if you will. Not always, some of these dogs win more than me, but there's a dog that can give consequences successfully and win the fight, in layman's terms. Now all of a sudden the dog listens to me in all these situations. Because we fought over food. We fought over resources, right? You didn't win, I won, I was confident, I was calm, and at the end of the day I was still telling you what to do, and you did it. And when you did it, you got a pat on the head. Now when I say stop barking, you stop barking. Now when I say don't bite her, you don't bite her. Because we had the proper conversations to delineate the hierarchy and who's going to be calling the shots. And calling the shots is very important around resources. Our home and things that come in and out that door. People, dogs, and the people out in the world. So now, I haven't done this with him. I've never walked him out there. But because I have that level of respect from him, which you can't get without having those core foundational conversations that any dog would have with another dog to figure out the hierarchy so that they understand who can have first dibs on the resources. Okay? I had that with him. So now I can say no to barking, and he says, okay, I won't bark. I can say don't bite her, he won't bite her. I can say do this, do this, do this, which is a command, and he'll do them much more readily and much more reliably because he understands where things can go if he tries to buck the system, if you will. Okay? We get that done early in the training so that we have leverage, so that it's easier to train about. All right? The reason I bring this all up is because that is the only thing that keeps a biting dog from biting, right? If they want to, like having the hierarchical conversations, we'll say, because that's why he's having his. He's saying, I don't want that food, or even though I do want it, because he did want that food, I could see him think that's a nice tasty piece of food. But then he said, I would rather guard it. Why would he want to do that? It's simple. He's a small dog. He cannot win in a fight with these dogs. You know what I mean? But you know what he can do? He can use his vibrato and his attitude and use certain conversations to tell them what his stature. Because he can't do it through humping. He's too small. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want that meet and greet to do it. Because the odds aren't in his favor. But what's in his favor is to have that hierarchical conversation by putting a piece of food here, letting me walk by it, growling, them seeing the intent because he will bite, like she read it and she walked away. Now as Miles, I've established a bit of a hierarchy around resources. I didn't do it the typical way where we start to sniff each other's butts and then whoever gets to hump the other one is the higher ranking one, right? That's not going to work for me, so I'm going to guard food. Now that's why it started, but then it just becomes a habit and the dog doesn't even know why they're doing it anymore. This is just what I do with food. But it feels good, make no mistake, for him to have something that another dog wants, exert himself like this and the other dog back down. That is essentially why he does it. He does it for that and for the security that means that dog won't mess with him. He's a small guy. So he chose, and some dogs do this, they choose that conversation to talk, hierarchy, and that's what he's doing. Cool thing is, I've already had those talks with him, so I can just say no, and he knows I'm real too, because if he bit the dog, he would have a very heavy consequence. And then if you try to bite me after the consequence, you'd have a heavier consequence, okay? And we repeat until there's no error. You don't try to bite the dog, you just, what? You submit to the situation, which is, don't bite the dog, even though you want to, so what are you going to do? I'm just going to ignore. That gets rewarded. The dog's 9. It takes some time, right? And it doesn't transfer to other humans. So he treats me the way that he treats me based off of our relationship. Our relationship is our past experiences. We've had, what, a week together? They've all been structured in some trust stuff, but there's been conversations in there that show him that I'm a serious leader, and I have high expectations, and I will correct if he starts breaking the known rules, right? That puts me in a place where now things are easier for me. How the dog views you is going to change how they treat you. So if you have a history of let the dog get away with things, then of course the dog's not going to take you seriously. But the harder one to get over is a person trying and then giving up, and then trying and then giving up, and then trying and giving up. And that looks like this. Dog, stop doing whatever it is you're doing. Pick a behavior, it doesn't matter. He's on the couch, he won't get off. He's got food, he won't give it to you, whatever it is. You confront because you've had enough. The dog snaps or growls or does something aversive towards you. Now you've had enough and you let the dog be. Those moments, just one of those moments, but a multiple of those moments makes the dog view you as weak and themselves as powerful around you. So then eventually when you say, okay, you know what, I don't care if you bite me, I'm going in for it, he will bite you. Because he already smelled that you were weak. Because from an animal to an animal is like, you want the food, that's what he sees. He wants the food. He says no, you say okay. So that is, what is that? What is that? What else is he supposed to think about that? He's supposed to think that, you're below. That's how that works. It's just how it works.